likely have way more than I need. So, you can see if it's got this, it's also sometimes called a spider plant. If it's got these thicker, longer stuff, that's kind of Sansevieria. And like I said, it's very, very hardy, as it's called. These are, oh, that's what that was. This one is nice. It's not a Sansevieria, but it will go long periods without water in case you forget to water it. I forget what these are called. Professor at Carl's Hall gave me some of these clippings. They're called cuttings, and you can actually put them right down in water. But so the Sansevierias, I'll show you how to do that. There's two different types of taking a cutting. The first one is take a cutting and stick it in water, and it'll eventually sprout roots. And that's when you can put it in the soil and it'll grow. The Sansevieria types, cut those off, leave them for like a week, and they'll grow a callus on the cut end, and then you stick it right in soil and it grows. They have a strong will to survive. This one is a Calancho. Howdy, how are you? Great. This one's a Calancho. It usually produces tons and tons of flowers. There's a lot on there now. They're just, I live in Sun Villa, and I only have either an eastern window, southern and western window, but I share bedrooms, so I don't like to put a bunch of plants in there. Otherwise, I've got a western facing window, so it doesn't get the greatest amount of light. This is one that I just took a cutting and threw it in there. These are cool. I've had both of these for like 5 years. That's as big as they got.
Wow.
This one's nice. This one's ridiculously easy to grow. And this one's ridiculously easy to grow. It's more of a creeper. This is my favorite one. Still up for people who want it. And this one, it's called a pink star. Yep, it's called a pink star. It's like a desert plant, basically. And this one, my mom gave me this. It's a philodendron. It'll go everywhere. That's why you have this, because it'll just fall over. And as you can see, my cat knocked the soil out of this one, and so it's still growing strong. It was like 5 months ago. So apparently, these they have a strong will to live. I'm serious. They'll grow anywhere, almost a weed. Oh, my other favorite, the little guy. My sister had this one. It's called a canna lily. It'll grow flowers eventually. This one, my sister had it on top of her greenhouse for a time, and it dried way out and didn't get sun for or didn't get water for like a year. That's just how bad these are. Like really, really good, strong, hardy plants. They'll grow anywhere, almost anywhere. I think it was basically sun-baked for a year, and it still grows. I've had it for a year myself and actually kept watering it. It started out here, and it's very slowly grown. See those little purple pieces? Those little purple bits right there. They're called rhizomes. They're like a bulb. I think you can cut one off, stick it in soil, and it'll grow. It's like a bulb. You can cut a bulb into like 12 pieces, and it'll become 12 new bulbs. What else do I have? I'm also not a plant major, so I don't know the names. I don't know the taxonomy. I can't give you we can look anything up. We have access to the computer, I'm sure. This is called moonshine. That's what my mom named it. She's the professor at Carl's Hall. Just as a grooming tip, I just saw this and it's brown, so I pulled it right out. That's just what you do with plants. And is anybody here familiar with plants at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What's your experience?
I actually sell like succulent cuttings,
Oh,
like
yeah.
string of pearls and stuff. I live in the dorms right now and I have north-facing windows, so I bought grow lights for them. Yeah, but I mainly do like succulents. I have a lot of pothos and stuff too, easy ones.
Yeah, yeah. These easy ones are great. I know that you really can grow some amazing things in very little light and little water, and you can make it work. But I as a student especially, I don't want to have something that's going to become my time sink, really.
Yeah.
So these are just like the brochure, the flyer said, put them in the windowsill, watch them grow. Oh, and I've also got, this is the moonshine. This is very similar. Pass this around if you want. Very similar to that. And this, they're different varieties, but they're not the same plant, but they're very similar. You can see that they tend to grow in that kind of what do you call it, the Fibonacci, the magic numbers thing, that where it grows all good. These are all the plants I had already in water sitting next to my sink. This one here's a string of dolphins. Used to call a wandering whale for some odd reason. I snipped that, stole that from my sister's plant that was growing more of those. The cool thing about plants, they have such a will to live, like you can't cut off a human hand and it grows into any human, but a plant will almost always do that. A lot of plants will they have an incredible ability to regenerate and reproduce its whole self from little pieces of itself, which is what I did with these, with that. That's what we're gonna do with all of these in the bag here. Whichever ones we use. This one is pretty. You can smell that one. I honestly don't know if the others have a good scent or not.
The south-facing window, what's the best direction for light?
South and east.
South and east, okay.
South is best, of course, because depending on where you are on the earth,
Yeah.
that's always gonna be where the sun is.
Yeah,
That or directly overhead, but
yeah,
the east-facing window also gets good sun brightness without being too dry and hot, because the western sun, especially around here, seems to last way longer, even especially in the summer. And it'll get all dry and real hot, and you won't get nearly as good of a sun coverage. I forget the actual unit they use, but it's the unit of light units that a plant can absorb, and you get less of that in the western sun
yeah,
than you do in the eastern sun. So south and east are your best bets.
okay.
But these, again, were in a western window, and they grew just fine. They didn't blow up. I don't think anybody wants their plants to get that big in an apartment. I want to show you all this one. Pass that around. That is an example of a plant that will never, ever regenerate. I've had it in water 6 months, and it has not produced roots. It stayed alive. It's absorbed that water and not decayed or anything, but it's not going to, you're never going to be able to get that to grow. These here, they're so cool. When they grow a new tuft of plant, like grows and it grows and it grows, every time there's a new tuft, it creates an entire new set of roots. So you could just cut it right there and stick it right in the soil. And that, you don't have to wait for it to grow a callus or for it to produce its own regular roots. It'll just, you can put it right in the soil and it ought to grow. What else do I have? Here's a good one. These are more of the creeper. That one over there. I pulled off, and this one just keeps growing and growing, and I don't snip it, and it'll just keep coming out. This one, I love this one. It's called the Tradescantia, with a D, Tradescantia. Because I've always wondered if it's Trada or it's Travit or something. It's Tradescantia. That thing is so hardy that I took that. It was just something that fell off of one of my mom's plants when we were helping her move plants. And it, I'll get these off the desk now.
Gotta give me a selection over here.
I know, right? And that thing, it's been in water like 2 weeks, and it's already produced, what's that, 3 inches of roots? It's well more than ready to be put in soil. If the roots were to break off and you stick it in soil, it'll grow new ones. I have, nope, I left that one at home. But it was like a little snippet of that Tradescantia where the 2 nodes are, where you can see where it, leaves must have grown, they fell off and it started shooting back up. That, one of those little segments I took that had fallen off because my cat had, that one was in soil, the roots got knocked off, and my cat had broken off that one piece, so I took that one piece and just stuck it directly in soil. And it's already, it grew to about, it did its own thing, started rooting and grew about that tall off the soil. Then my cat ate the top of it, and it's already produced another little cat. These plants love growing. They love life. Get some of this coffee plant. Hot bean juice. Completely out of order, let me tell you a little bit about myself. 38, non-traditional student, part of the honors college, obviously. I'm a computer science student, a mathematics minor. And so I do love tech and stuff like that, or I should say I love working with tech and on tech. Don't necessarily trust things. It's kind of like the old adage, a tech enthusiast loves things that like new cameras and smart bulbs and smart hounds. And a computer science major is extremely leery of all those things. So, maybe you have to be in it to think it's funny, but. So this one is a great one. It's hard because it's hard to grow around pets because there's just so many little things sticking off and it wiggles, and a cat's gonna go. You can pass that if she wants to get a picture. And it wiggles, and a cat is gonna just attack it. There's so many leaves, but that's just to show how hardy that one is too, because it'll survive pretty much anything. And I love it because it's like a windowsill creeper, because you can just keep giving it water and it'll just keep going, putting out new shoots and making the ones that are there longer. And so that's what I have about the plants. Are there any particular questions? Yeah.
What are like the most common mistakes that people make, like when they're starting out with like new plants and everything?
Overwatering. Overwatering is a huge problem. I like these because they don't require a lot of maintenance. So I don't have the tendency, never have, to overwater a plant. Well, not since I was long ago, not since I was young. But I'll get that for you. Unless you just like having a friend.
I don't dislike it.
They're cool, huh? So it does that. I'll get it. So the overwatering is a problem. Underwatering can be a problem. You almost never, with potted plants, I personally, in the 4 or 5 years I've grown them, I've never had to worry about underwatering or nutrient issues, ever. It's just not a problem with a potted plant, because the potting mix that I buy has those wood chips in it and just a little bit of soil, but otherwise it has a bunch of wood chips and other stuff that's just gonna slowly break down over time and become nutrients for the plant. Even a potting soil that you get in a bag, you don't have to worry about nutrients really. It's out. It's either when you're trying to produce something you're gonna eat, or in the ground that you have to worry more about things like pests and nutrients. Any more questions?
Go ahead, Scott.
Josh, you mentioned your cat several times. There are a number of other cat aficionados here in the room. As you've hinted, cats, they chew, they spill, and then of course some plants can be very harmful to cats. So what advice would you offer to cat owners if they're interested in having some plants but also want something that'll work for all parties involved?
Some plants are deadly to cats. So far, this one is pretty toxic, but it's not deadly. All these spider plants are toxic, but in the Sansevierias, they're toxic, but they're not going to kill up a cat if they chew on it. I've never seen a cat chew on a plant that's toxic and then eat something, because it's the whole bitterness thing to their palate, and they're not going to like it. So I assume, I'm not a cat aficionado, not a cat master either. So, well, not an animal major of any kind. So I don't know if cats have taste buds. I assume that it's some similar thing to humans, where if it's bitter, we know it's poison, But like this, baby steers, that's non-toxic. And even these Sansevieria, they're toxic. A cat will throw it up if it gets a little juice in its mouth, a little of the sap, but it won't die. You should avoid it. You should take plants like this and put them in places, like this one in particular, I have on the little, so they've got the TV, because it's an apartment and everything's bolted to the wall. They got a TV and a little thing here for your entertainment center like thing. And I've got that sitting here, and they'll go up and they'll dig the roots, or they'll dig the little snippets and chips and stuff out of it and play with those. But they don't mess with the plant, because they found, I'm a believer in mess around and find out. And they have found out that this is not a fun plant to play with. It'll make them feel bad. I try to use a water bottle, especially a squirt gun. I keep a squirt gun, and if they do mess with it, I just remind them with a little.
Yeah.
But otherwise, hi. But otherwise, the safest thing to do would be to make sure that they only have access to plants that are non-toxic, and especially, give them one. This is their plant. They can chew on this, they get to sit in it, they eat it all day long. They use it like salad. They really do. And since they have that available to them, they tend not to mess with this, I've found, just in my own experience. This one, they don't seem to have a problem with it. They also don't eat it. They just chew on it and get a little sap on their teeth. The Canada lilies are totally non-toxic. Yeah, I think that's it for the toxic, are these here. I haven't checked the philodendron. I haven't seen if that is, but they don't mess with it. So I guess I'm lucky. Otherwise, the safest thing to do is obviously don't give them access to those plants, if you can. If there's a room, you can close it off, or a sill too high, or they don't tend to jump up on my sink counter and stuff like that. So that's been my experience. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question about. I've seen people put plants in their bathrooms.
Yeah.
I've seen air plants in the showers. That's different than this, obviously. But if I don't really have any southeast facing windows, but you just mentioned you have fake lights.
Yeah, I have grow lights. You can get them on Amazon
Yeah,
for
that'd be cool.
$30.
Do you think the humidity is good for a plant in the bathroom or from the shower, or
The more
does
the
it
better
matter?
for plants.
Okay,
Except
like a
for
greenhouse.
63% seems to be, and I used to grow marijuana when I was in Oklahoma, so I really studied the humidity and stuff. So 63% seems to be the cut, where if it's consistently over that or over, you're going to have mold. It's just going to grow a little green carpet on the soil, and it'll get worse and worse as you keep having mold. So I use a humidifier, because in Sunville in particular, it stays about 7 to 10% humidity in that house. You can't see them from here, and I've been using a lot of lotion since then, but my hands were cracked. The heels of my feet, you can still peel little pieces of skin like the desert can. So I use a pot of water on the stove for humidity, and I try to keep it at about 50%. I've never had problems with mold, except when I shower and it builds up the humidity a little bit. And if I let it stay over 63%, that's when you have mold problems. That's the humidity issue.
How do you check? How do you detect that?
I have a hygrometer.
Okay, cool.
It was about $12 on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's,
This is cool.
a way you might be able to do it, to kind of notice
Mhm.
without it, without any kind of actual sensor. Watch your windows,
Uh-huh.
and if it starts fogging up at all, that's too much.
Okay.
So, because that's, especially the windows is where the humidity is gonna kind of sift towards and build up right there
Yeah.
because it's, floating out of the window.
Okay.
So if the window is fogged up and it's not raining, obviously, then that's too much. If it is
Yeah.
raining, it's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
That's about my best advice there. As far as the shower goes, I mean, I take really long hot showers.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
So-
that's not good.
it depends. I didn't bring any with me. You can maybe get some neem oil or something. And some plants just do well. That's how they do. They're tropicals.
Yeah.
They're meant for constantly having water dripping off of them in their soil. They're, they have through their own roots, they produce their own kind of fungicide, sort of, that will, a lot of plants will, that will ward off the funguses that they might have problems with in their native environment. So if it's tropical, you're probably okay.
Okay.
Any more questions? Yeah.
I have like plants that hang on like little plate type things in the window. Should you and I have a bunch like on my top like kitchen shelf thingy. Should you like move them around so they get different kinds of light, or should they always just stay in like one spot?
It depends on how you want it to grow.
Okay.
Because if, let's see, this one here, like let's say this is the edge of my bedroom, and then there's the bed, and I'll put it here with the cover, the blinds around it so the cats won't mess with it. The cat won't mess with it. And I'll have it, you can see that it's growing this way.
Yeah,
So
that's how mine are.
That's because that's where the sun is. If you don't mind that, and they're surviving, then that's a fine place for them. If you want them to be more spread out, this one in particular, you can see the difference of where the sun's coming from, where it's growing towards,
Yeah.
versus, versus where it's the sun, it's just on the other side of the pot. You'd think it'd be pretty good here, but it's really focusing on growing where that sun's coming.
Yeah.
I don't mind that myself, so.
Yeah, I think I
don't
should
worry about
just, like you said, take off the dead leaves like that are on the other side and it should be okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
these are, oh, you can see that. Pass that around. Anybody allergic to orange? Citrus? Okay. That is a piece of citrus that I use to ward off my cat. They don't like the smell. A lot of them don't. But you can also see the little fuzzies, that little piece of fuzz on there. And that's just a sign that maybe it got a little too moist for too long, grew a little mold that sustained itself. And I mean, there's sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it, but obviously it's not hurting the plant.
I have this cactus by my window, and it's a north-facing window, so it doesn't really get that much light. It just gets a little bit, but
Yeah.
it hasn't died or anything. It just kind of sustained its.
Cactus are pretty.
It's probably fine, right?
It's fine as long as you're not expecting it to turn into a saguaro.
Yeah. Okay.
Because without light, they won't.
Like grow
You know.
that much.
It's kind of like, it's almost a direct numbers game compared to like with a human, where there's just a whole bunch of factors that go into whether or not we sprout up when we're young. If we have the right nutrients, if we're not, smoking cigarettes or drinking coffee when we're young, things like that, that'll stunt our growth and stuff. But plants are directly water and light. So if it doesn't have over a certain threshold of light, it won't grow beyond a certain speed, or it won't grow at all, or it'll start dying. And as long as it's not dying and you're fine with it, with the size it is, then it's fine.
Okay.
It's happy.
Yeah.
It's happy enough anyway. It's happy as a plant can be.
Yeah.
And you have ones like this that'll just blow up. This I think I put in soil about 6 months ago. It wasn't even near the light. It just grows.
I have another question.
Yeah.
How often do you change soil and plants?
Never.
You can just stay the same?
Uh,
I don't know.
so here's, let me show you two examples. If I can get it without breaking it. Look kind of closely if you want. You don't have to take them. You can tell me to go away. The small one I've recently transplanted is what it's called. Because I had that string of hair sitting down there in some water already, and it was ready to be potted. So that has very few roots, and that one has a whole bunch of roots. Turns out both of these plants like to be root bound. They like it when there's really not a lot of soil, because it's mostly roots and stuff. They really, the Sansevierias are the same. This is going to be the same. This one is largely the same. They like it when they're able to really grow in there and get big, thick, gnarly roots, So it depends on, once it gets to that size, that one's ready to be transplanted, to be taken apart, root pruned it's called, and it never is not the answer. I was just kidding, I guess. You want it to wait till it's the right time for that plant. So that one won't really grow much bigger, much faster, unless I root prune it and put it in fresh soil.
So it's
in a
more
big
about
pot.
the pot than the
Yes,
soil?
the pot size.
Okay, that makes sense.
The soil doesn't go bad.
Yeah.
If it's 10-year-old soil and it's used up all its natural nutrients, it needs more.
Yeah, okay.
That's all there is to it.
Gotcha.
Anything else? Yeah?
How about to transplant an inch plant from like a normal pot to a hanging basket? Do you have any tips on like training it down and keeping up with pruning it?
Do you have a picture by any chance?
I do not. It's just out of control. I put some small dowels in it because I was like, yeah, I'll be able to keep up with training it out. No, I can't.
I haven't really done a lot with training myself. I know that you can use the dowels to kind of clip it so that it'll grow where you want it, but that requires, constant attention, as you found out. The, what do you call it? You can snip it. It's a form of destructive training, or I forget the technical term, but there's destructive and non-destructive training, dowels being non-destructive, clipping, like this one here. If I wanted it to stop growing this way and stop producing more out here, I'd go on both of those little things and it would put its energy that way, because something ate it over here. It didn't want to keep growing over here. That's, just in a very computerized sense, procedural sense of the word, plants are very much like a very simple brain. They grow towards the light and away from the heat. So your inch plant, you called it? Maybe, trim it where you want it to stop growing and it'll come out somewhere else.
I'll try that. Oh, thank you.
Hi guys.
Hello.
So we've been, for the people who didn't hear from the beginning, I have a whole lot of plants, which seems like this is a lot. You should see my mom's arboretum out in Rogersville. She's got thousands of plants, some in pots, some not. But these are all pots. These here are Sansevieria. They're subtropical, not desert, but they can grow here or in the desert. They just won't do as well. They're subtropical, mostly subtropical. They're very low maintenance. The only real problem is overwatering. I have names for a few of them. Philodendron, cool one. Moonshine, Kalanchoe, Canna lily, Sansevieria, or sometimes called spider plant. Oh, little bitty pink star. Itty bitty little cactus thing-ish. Not a cactus, but it has leaves, but it's got the serrated edge like a steak knife. So you can tell it's meant for desert-ish conditions. And I am totally gonna teach y'all how to, if you want to, whether you wanna get your hands dirty or not, you don't have to. We can use the soil that I brought over there on this plastic and hopefully not spill anymore. And I'll show you how to get soil relatively moist enough to be planting in. I will show you how to transplant, how to make cuttings, which ones need to go in water, which ones need to be left out so that they'll form a callus, as they're called. And you can walk away with plants, 3 plants, if you want. And I pretty much have finished my lecture portion. Would you like to start the hands-on portion? Okay.
Yes.
The real simple way to do this is just, this one's not that root bound. You can see it's called root bound when there's tons and tons of roots. And you can see that there's not really, the soil moves freely. It's not like that, I forgot what we did with it, but it's that other one that's really root bound. These here, if they're really root bound and they're stuck to the pot and you can't get it out no matter what, just try to, kind of wiggle it a little bit, loosen the soil, not too much. And then, just kind of, boom. Then you have this little bugger. You can see that it's not at all root bound. I could leave this in here for another year or something. A lot of this soil is going to fall away, that's okay. We're not making a mess here. I just ripped it apart. No special technique really. And this is really what we're getting, is this and this. We can even, and we got 3 out of this one. I wouldn't try to separate these unless you're going to try to make a cutting, which again, as you've seen from that wilty one. Where'd it go? Where'd it go, guys?
Which one?
It's up here somewhere. It's it's one of these, but it's the one of these that I said would never ever grow.
Oh, it's to your right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't really asking. Teasing. I like to tease. It happens. This one here, you always want to look at it. That'll never ever grow because it's too small and weak. And supposedly, like most of a plant, most of a little leaf like this, you cut it off and you put it in water. Since you need to leave it for let it grow a callus so that you can put it directly in the soil. It should grow a whole new plant just from this section, but this one won't. I don't know if it's got a few too many catnips or, I did put it in water at first because I didn't know this myself when I did it. But that'll never ever turn into a plant. That's just gonna die, mold out, turn rotty, and whatever you put it with is gonna get rot. So, go with the little bitty boy. And I don't have to open the soil yet, though I will. And the goal here is to get yourself some started. This stuff's already moist. Honestly, I think that's already moist too. That's why it weighs 80 pounds. 8 pounds because I bought it in the rain. And they don't go cover those at the feed store and stuff like that. They just let it get rained on. So, and that just so happened to have a little spot in the middle where it was already open. So it got a bunch of rain in it. So you see how, about where the soil is, the level. I've got it, maybe halfway. And I you can see how the roots are like this. You don't want to touch them if you don't have to, but I don't think it's going to kill them. We're not actually growing stuff we're going to produce or sell. I mean, you guys can do what you want once they're yours, but for this sake, I'm just going to wallow out a little section about that big with my finger, and I'm going to try to clamp it together, kind of wiggle it down in there a little bit. Use the soil that's already in there to close it off, and then give it more. And you'll want to tamp it down. You'll want it, again, tamp it down, but not tight. If it's tight, you're gonna break roots, and the roots won't be able to try to spread out through that really tight compact soil. But you don't want it loose either, because then it's just gonna woggle around and stuff. And at this point, there's no holes in it, but, anybody have a pencil?
There's scissors over there.
I have scissors. Somebody cool brought me those. I'll make a mess, and we're already in. I'm gonna put one in the middle. I should have done this before I put soil in there, but I should have. I'm gonna put, no, not. That right there will be enough for now. You'll really, and I'm gonna do it to these, but you'll want more little holes in there. You'll want about 5 little holes this size, enough for the water to drip out and not set in there, because that's what creates mold. And you know, bacterial growth, if there's gonna be bacterial growth, but most of what problems you're gonna have are mold. So that's it. And you can see how there's a lot of room. You don't have to have that much room, half the full cup worth of room. But if it's really tall, if you fill it all the way up, you're not gonna be able to water it without trickling real slow, and you're gonna get soil spilling out. So be careful not to put too much soil in it either. Yeah, they're ready for nutrients. It's been 3 months. I put nutrients just a few bit in each time, or in about 4 times a year. This was $10. You can get the stuff at $6. It doesn't matter. It looks like this. If I use an old hair tie, I used to have 3-foot hair. Gave it to Wigs for Kids. And because I got tired of it. I don't know. A couple of you have long hair here. I don't know how you stand it. I don't know. Hard to you. To my palate, doesn't have a smell. I haven't tried to taste it. It comes with this little scoop. It has a, what is that, 1.5 tablespoons or a half teaspoon. And if you're gonna do, I would, if you ever get one of these and you have this, use the small scoop. Don't even get a full bit of it, and you'll wanna put it in a whole gallon of water. That's all it needs. Otherwise, you'll have something called nutrient burn, which is where the plant has too many nutrient salts and it can't get the water past them, so it starts to die as if it's being burnt. Needs them, but I didn't think to bring a gallon jug either, so. Where's the nearest water?
Just right outside, there's a water fountain and everything.
You're right. A lot I've already seen that I'll add to the what I'll do differently next time section. Like bring a, you know, something to put, to drain the water into. So, for this little bitty bit of water, you see the crystals. They're just a barest bit of them. Just a hair of those crystals. You really don't want too much. I'm gonna do that. Dry them off when I'm done, I promise.
No worries.
Takes a minute for most of them to dissolve, and it's like any solution. It's not all gonna dissolve if you put too much. Turn blue on me, which is what it's supposed to do, it's blue. And then once you're done, once you have it potted, you'll wanna water it in. I'm putting what I can think of as just enough, I hope. Yeah, Usually when you water your plant, you don't want, for any plant, you don't want a shallow watering, just little water a lot, often. Because that'll tell the plant that it has lots of water close to the surface, and it'll spread out like this with its roots and never go deep. You want deep, strong roots. Most plants are made for deep roots. And in this particular case, if you water completely, drench it well, but not very often, that's the more appropriate way to do it, so that it'll try to dry out a little, which also helps with mold. If you overwater, you're gonna have mold, and it'll keep trying to push for more water deeper down, which is what you want. So this one's ready. Who wants it? It's not really ready, is it? Set it here. And that's basically all there is to potting the plant. Any more questions? Okay. Who wants to help?